All right, guys. So let me quickly start. Let me share my screen. Right. So what we talk about in few days that we had this session, right? We talk about how we can create an Appian interface, very quickly the process models. So we created one customer record, right? And then we saw that a customer record is very quickly we can add without having a single line of code. We can have everything ready, right? We can create process models. We can create interface without any code, and then we will have one working application for a customer update is there right now. If you see here, this was the customer record that we built, and let it open. Right. And if you try to see the customer record, so we are able to have this everything, we can have a new customer created here, we can update the customer, and then we can also delete the customer. So all those things that we did in like few minutes, we develop all these things, right? All right. So today we are going to start a new topic that's called a query. Because the interface that we are designing, right? We have started a small interface to be designed, and we see that in the interface we need something called a drop-down field where we should be able to see the drop-down values, right? Like what are the account types we have available into our reference table, right? So we will see how do we make a query to get the data from the record, okay? And indirectly, it's getting the data from the database. All right. So to get a query, right, and this query will be reusable, right? Because whenever we need certain output from a depend based on a category, right? So whenever we try to use this query, we can call it, and then you can, based on our inputs, it can return you the data, right? That's what our purpose is. So what we can do, we can design a separate code for this so that we can, whenever we want, we can reuse it, right? So I'm going to create a new expression rule for that, and I can put a name as get reference data by category. So this rule will return the reference data based on category. All right. So I hit create. Okay. So what is the function that we need to get the data from the database or the query record, right? So the function is called a bank query record, right? So query record type. So this function basically needs to pull the data from a record, okay? Now, what are the inputs it has? If you don't remember the inputs, you can simply refer, just click inside the parentheses and you will be able to see what are the whole description and how it works, what are the parameters, it is being used. Everything is available in the information in the below window, okay? Right. So what is the important parameters we need? It's a record type. The query asks you, okay, you want to query certain data, right? What is the record type you want to use? From which record you want to pull the data? To refer a particular record, in our case, we are going to pull the record from the reference data. This is the record that we built. To refer up any particular record, we need to use a parameter, the prefix. What is the prefix, guys, to use the record type?
Record type.
Record type. Right. So record type and then bank. This exclamatory notation we call in Appian, we say it as a bank. So record type and start typing your name of the record, it will pop up here. So we want to refer the reference data, right? And then it has few more fields, right? What fields you want, what are the filters you want, and paging info, like how many data you want to be pulled in. So we'll go paging info. Paging info parameter defines that how much record you want to pull from a query. So for paging info parameter, we have a paging info function as well. So we will define a bank paging info. And then it says start index and batch size. So start index, I will say I want to get the data from the index 1. And let's say batch size, I want to put, let's say 100. Right? That's it. If you do this much of coding, and just hit the test rule, it is now returning you the data from a record. You see that? We have 8 in data in the system, in the table, right? All 8s are coming in. Okay? With this much of code only, we are able to get the data. But what is our purpose? Our purpose is that instead of getting whole data, why not we can apply a filter and then retrieve the data what we want to retrieve only, right? As because you see here is a category is the account type, and then we also have a category called account status. So what we need a account type. So what we can do, we can apply a filter for that. Before going to the filter, any question till here?
No.
Is that clear? What's the paging info is doing? What's the record type is doing? Those two parameters, right? Okay. Now the other parameter that we need is called filters, because we want the data in the filters. I don't want to have the data, all the data all the time, right? Because right now in our reference table we have only 8. There is a possibility when you work with the actual application, you might have thousands of entries in the reference table, right? So you don't need to pull all the thousands records all the time, right? So filters. For the filters, if you don't remember what are the parameters is used for the filter, you can simply refer here, right? You can see it says a filter. A query filter can be provided. All those details you can see it here, right? So what filters we need? We need a filter called a bank query filter. If you say even query filter and it says field, what field you want to apply the filter? To refer a particular field in Appian, again for a record type, we need to use record type bank NAO reference data dot fields dot category, because I want to apply the filter on the category, and then I hit enter and then say operator. Operator, I would like to use equal operator and then value. I'm going to have account type, right? Now, if you do this and try to click on the test rule, now you see I receive only 4 inputs. All are belongs to account type, right? So you understand how do we apply the filters? Any question?
Ravi, can you repeat one more time? Sorry.
No, I just said that, if you don't apply the filters, the record will return, the query will return the whole result, right? Whatever number of result that you have, it will return the whole result, because and batch size is 100, so it will return maximum 100 records at a time, right? Now, what we need is we need only data related to the account type category. So what we did, we apply a filter, and we mentioned that this filter should return the data of account type. Now, let's say to understand the batch size, let's say I'm going to type 2 here. The batch size is 2. Now, can anyone guess what would be the output if I click on test rule? Any guesses, guys?
2 records it will print.
It will give only 2 records from the start index 1, because the batch size is 2, right? Now, any question in the filter now? Because we are saying that in my whole data set, return me the data where the category is equal to account type, right? So now can anyone tell me what's the one problem with this rule? If I save this rule and whenever we call this rule, what will happen?
Only account type will come.
Only account type data will come all the time. So is
Yes.
this rule is the dynamic? Hmm? Is this rule is a dynamic?
No.
No,
No.
right? Because whenever we execute, we will get only the data of account type. Now, how can we make this rule as a dynamic? So we have talked about the local variables, right? In Appian, we have one more variable that's called rule input. It's kind of a bridge. It's not a variable, 100%, but you can say that it's a kind of a bridge which is used to retrieve and pass the information. So on your every code window, even your interface or an expression rule, on the right hand side, you can see there's a small arrow icon. Just click on that and it will allow you to create a rule input. Now, whenever you create a rule input, you will also have to define the type of it. So I'm going to define a rule input called category, and I'm going to define the type of this as a text. Now, what happened once we create this rule input? Now, this rule will now tell that, you know what, I need a value to be provided here. If you don't handle the null thing, then it will break, but we need a variable. So now instead of this direct code, that direct value that we are providing account type here, now what we can say, please refer my rule input that is passing it here. So rule input, to allow a rule input to be added into the code, we need a prefix called rule input RI. R for rule, I for input. So RI and then bang. When you start typing RI bang, it will start giving you the list of the rule inputs that you might have. So I have only once it's saying with category. And now I'm going to put my data here, maybe just for testing purpose. And I hit the test tool, I will get the data for account type. And if I change it to account status, I will get my data for account status. Is that clear now? Now this will become dynamic. Whenever we call this rule, that rule will tell that, you know, I need an input because you have used the rule input there category. Please provide that input. So if you provide that input, it will give you the data according to that. So now this will become dynamic. Now what happened by mistake if someone is not going to pass anything? So it will break the code because it will say, hey, you have used the equal operator, and if you are using any rule input and the value parameter, we should have some values. So please give me some value. Now in case you want to handle the null parameter, then you can have uh, a condition here inside the query filter, apply when. So I can have apply when, and I say is not null or empty. What is not null or empty? RI by category. So until unless the RI category is not null or empty, you don't apply this code. Now if I go and click on test rule, what I'm going to get? I'm going to get all the data because this filter is being not applied because we do not have any data for category. As soon as I go and add the data for this category and try to call this rule, I'll get my data according to that. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Right? So there could be possibility, right? You might be able to wanted to filter based on the category. You might be apply the filter based on something else, right? So let's say there are multiple filters, right? Let's say if you want to get by the display value, you know, then in that case, what we can do, we can apply more filter, isn't it? So we have to write all these things. Now, what kind of information this query record type returns? It returns a maps where you can see many other details. Success is true, start index, batch size, total count. Now, total count is giving you -1 because there's a parameter called inside this query record type. The parameter call is, we can put it anywhere. I can say fetch total count. And if you tell this as a true and then click on the test rule, then it will give the total count. Because we have filtered on account status, we are getting 4 records. That's the total count is giving to you. If we remove this and click on test rule, then total count will be 8 because it is returning all the data. Right? Now, if you want to work with only with the data, what we can do? We can simply say dot data. If you say simply dot data, it will remove all those other information and it will only return you the pure data that you want. Right? Any question?
No, it's good.
Okay. Now imagine this is a very small table. So we have only five, six fields, right? ID, category, display value. Imagine you are making a query to a big table, and that table has, let's say, 50 of the columns or 50, 70 columns, right? But you need information only for five or six columns, right? And why do we need to do all these things? Because it will increase your performance, right? I am not going to query unnecessary columns if you don't need it, right? For that, Appian has inside this query record type, we have one more parameter called fields. These fields will allow you to define what are the columns you want to fetch. Now, let's say I want to fetch record type NAO reference data dot fields dot ID. This is what I want, the first column I want. And then I want dot category. I am passing the category all right already. So I'm going to have display value. And let's say I'm going to have maybe is active or not, right? Only three columns. So initially we were getting all six columns. Now if I go and click on test rule, now my query has been reduced to three columns. Now one more thing, let's remove this and click on test rule now. How much time it is taking to query the data? 31 milliseconds. Now I'm going to have this. Depends, right? Time last time it was 25. So it also reduces the time sometimes because it's a very small column, very small data, right? So not you are not able to find it, but yeah, it will be very less if you work with the big table and having lots of columns. Okay, so that is now see it's a 17 milliseconds, right? So if you want to reduce the column size as well, that I want to work with only few of the columns, you can go with this fields option as well. Okay, now if we wanted to have one more filter, and I'll say one more filter, then I'll use curly braces here because we are going to put multiple filters. I'm going to say, please return me the data where the is active is equal to 1. You know, it means the true. I don't need this value, so I'll just remove it. Right. So what it will do, it will try to filter only those records where I think it's true. Right. So it will return only those data where the is active is true. So this is the way you can use multiple filters as well. Question?
Anyway, can we put that dot data anywhere, or is it mandatory to put it the last to
At the
get all?
last,
Okay.
right? Okay. Now you might be feeling okay. We talk about less coding and then we are doing a lot of coding here because it's already now I can say that 23 lines of code, right? Let's delete all those code. What else we can do in Appian out of box feature? On the top, you can see there is something called launch the query editor. Click on that. We want to query a record type. So select your record type here. We want to query the reference keyword, right? Hit continue. And then let's say I want to use only few columns. So you have a checkbox available here. I would like to have category. I'll remove the category and created by and created all. Only these three columns I want. I want to also apply a filter. So click on the filter and then add the filter. Which filter you want to apply? I want to apply on the category. Equals to what? Equals to the value that we have created the rule input. So click on the input variable and then select the rule input that we have created RI category. Sort and limit. I want to data only 100 limit, or maybe if you want to change to 50, generate the query, hit the generate the query. You see, your code is ready. Easy,
Yeah, it's too easy.
right?
Yeah,
But why I went through this that because so that you can understand what are the functions and what are things we have. But it's very easily you can get the same result without adding the same line of,
yeah.
right? So you can configure those. Now, no one did ask me what is the use of this operator and what is this logical expression, because we are seeing a logical expressions here, right? So if you want to use multiple query filters, we should be doing it by using a logical expression, because logical expression tell you that what kind of relations you want to be applied between two different fields. So let's say I want to have one more query filter, I mean a role input called display value. That's a type of text, right? Now I'm going to have add one more query filter and add, let's say based on not on the category, I on the field dot display value, and then I'm saying ri display value, and let's say I'm going to say initiated. Can anyone tell me how many result I will get? This is my query. I'm saying according to my query, I'm saying please return the data where the category is equal to account status and operator here is and the display value is equal to initiated. So if I click on test rule, how many data I get?
One.
One.
That's correct. So I'm gonna get only one data. Now if I go and simply change this operator and to or, then how many data I'll get here?
All the four.
All the four will get it because it says account status. So all the places where I see the account status and then the display was initiated. Now if I go and change this to the account type, then how many result I'll get? Just for your understanding, I'm going to add one more parameter called category. Okay, so this is my query now. I'm saying return the data from this table or this record where my RI category is equal to account type or my display value is equal to initiated. So if I click on test tool, how many data I will get?
All the account types, I guess, eight.
All the account types. Okay.
Yes.
And think guys, think. I mean, we have 4 account type in the system and 4 account status into the system. So based on this query, what you are expecting?
So there's eight, right?
Right. Total is 8. There are 4 are account type and 4 are account status.
Yes. I think the account types which are initiated. No?
No, that's the display value. We are passing the
Yes,
display
yes.
value as initiated.
Yeah. Yeah, eight.
No, wrong. Anyone else want to give a try? If you can answer this, your concept will be clear. How
Vedam
many
says
did
four.
no? Anyone else? All right, then let's try this. Can anyone tell me why we are getting 5? Because of the operator, guys. So it's saying OR operator. It means return in the data where category is equal to account type. So for category account type, we have 4, or display value is equal to initiated. And for display value initiated, we have 1. So total 5 records it will bring. Now what happens if I go and change this OR to AND? Then how many results we are going to get?
No value.
That's correct. We will not receive any result because there are no record into the system where the category matches with the account type and the display value is initiated. So that's the reason it is not returning you the any value because of the AND operator. It's a very general thing, right? You might have learned in the college and how AND and OR works, right? Any one is true, and both has to be true. In this case, both condition is not matching, right? Because there are no such records where the account type is equal to a category is equal to account type, and the same one within we have the display value as initiated. So that's why it's giving you no result. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. Okay, then. Now what we need to use? We need to call this query in our interface tool to have the list of the drop down. So before going there, let's open this interface and see how this drop down code works. So if you see into the expression mode for this drop down, we have choice label. Choice label is something that we display, and then we have choice values. It means something that we save, right? So for the choice label, what do we need to display? We need to display the account types. And how do we get it? So as we said, right, we need a local variable function to declare a local variable. So I will use a local variable function here and then say local bank account types, right? And as because we will have to use these local variables in the form, so we will have to take this form layout, cut it and paste it inside the local variables. Otherwise, this local variable will not be in scope to use it, right? Because that will be available inside only this one bracket. All right. Now this local variable that we declared, what do we need to be have here? We need to call our rule that we created to fetch the data from the database. And what's the rule name? This is the rule name that we, so copy this rule name, go to your here, and to call a rule that we have created, we need a prefix called rule bank, and then paste your name of the rule. And once you hit this, now you see that how many rule inputs we have created. 2. Inside this parenthesis, it will show you these are the 2 rule inputs that we need to pass. So I'm going to pass these 2 rule inputs, and for category, I'm going to pass account type, and for the display value null. It means I just want the data based on the account type. Now if you see, click on the test of your interface. If you see on your right hand side, this the variable local variable section has an account type that we created, just account type, and it has 4 entries. You see that?
Yes.
So we are able to reuse this rule. We are able to call this rule wherever it is required and get the required information. Now, what we can do inside a choice label? So inside a choice label, instead of this hard-coded value, I'll just remove this, and then I'll say local bank account types, right? Now we will have to refer which field I want to display. So which field we will displaying here, the display value, right? So I will have, and what's the type of this local variable that we are getting the output? Is a record type. So I'll say record type NAO reference data dot fields dot display value, right? So now what happens? This choice label will start displaying the value, and how many value it will display? It will display 1, 2, 3, 4. So what it is saying that in the code, a drop down that you have as account type has invalid values, because in the choice label you have 4 items, right? The length of the choice label is 4, but the value is 12. So what we need to do, we need to remove this 12 default values, and then we can use the same code. However, instead of display value, we can refer ID. So what I want to make sure here, if you click on this drop down now, you will be able to see the list of accounts, and this list of accounts are coming from the query that we built to get the data from the record type. Any questions so far, guys? What you have done so far?
So what is the type which is stored in that local variable? Is it
That's
like
a record type.
this?
So we are
Oh,
querying this record, right? So it's a query record type. So the output of this one will be the record type.
mm-hmm.
You see in the value, you can see, right? It is referring to the record type and your reference data. And to refer a record type, we will have to use this format. Clear? Any doubt, guys? If you have doubt, please do ask.
Now, if we select suppose account in the drop down, then the ID will be stored inside that,
Right,
right?
the ID, the associated ID, So how do you do that? Now let's say that was the next topic I wanted to discuss. How do we save the values, right? So, but yeah, before going to there, is there any question that how did we bring this value to the drop down labels? Or is that clear or not? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's say I'm going to declare one more variable called local bank um, selected account type. This is the local variable we declared, local bank selected account type. Now inside any field that we design, we have few parameters called save into. Inside the save into, I will say save into local bank selected account type. Okay, now you see that one more variable has been created inside the local variable section. I'm going to select saving. So account type is having value as 1. If I go and change to the current, it is going to 2. If I'm going to change to the loan account, it's going to be 4. And it's not sequential. It's actually the ID of the data, right? The ID that is coming from the database. However, you might have observed this, that we are making a selection, but the selection is not visible here. To to see the change, I mean the value that you have selected, we have to use one more parameter called value. And for value parameter, we can simply use the same variable. It will automatically understand what value it has to display. So now if I change the current, it will be 2, and then here you can see the current account. So internally, Appian understand the code, what's the label, and what's the associated ID with it. So whatever ID you will be get save and pass the same in the value, it will display the value here. Even though we are not saving current account or loan account, we are saving the ID of it. And Appian will understand based on the ID what value it has to display. You don't have to write a code for that. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. So questions, guys. So what are the functions what is the function that we need to query the record data?
A bank query record
Query record type.
type.
Right? What is the use of logical expression?
To select the what is required value for us from
To
multiple.
apply multiple filters
Yeah.
along with the operators. Right? What is the use of rule input?
Mm, to transfer the data from one object to another object, like from rule
Mhm.
expression, from expression rule to from UI to expression rule, like that.
Okay. All right. What is the use of paging info?
To retrieve the certain amount of data, specific amount of data.
Right. That's correct. All right. Okay, so guys, let's stop here, and practice this. So what, take a task, what the task would be that you need to build a query rule for the customer record and apply multiple filters there, maybe based on first name, middle name, last name, and then maybe email, whatever you want. So try to apply multiple filters and bring up with and don't just go and use the out of box feature. First try to write down the code, so you will understand, okay, what the feature functionality of the code, and then you can remove it and try to use this query launch editor. And if you
Uh,
guys forget it, this is the feature, launch the query editor, the second icon from the right.
so what we have to do? Can you come again?
You need to create a new query rule which should query the customer record. So we have started working with the customer record, right? So create a query for the customer record and based on multiple inputs like first name, middle name, last name, email, or maybe whatever. You just build on this. You don't have to create any interface. That's the expression rule, and that expression rule should work for this customer. So if I try to query the record based on the first name, I should get the result. If I try to query the based on the PAN number or email, I should get the result.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any question?
No.
All right. I'll say let's stop here. Oh, there are messages. Oh, let's see. Oh, answer was message. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't see the messages, when I was sharing. But yeah, it's fine. Okay, right, guys. So if you have any questions, please drop me a message on WhatsApp and we can discuss or just take this task and then come up with your answers.
Sure.
All right. So any other questions before we wrap up? All right. So guys, whoever has not gone through the videos, please go through the previous video, so that you can cope up with the speed and understand what we are actually doing it, right? And for the new one who is joined today, we are going to build a use case for a new account opening process where we will be going and creating a new account for the customers, right? That will require an approvals and all. So we'll work on those things and we will generate some new interfaces for that, approval task for the managers and all. We'll see that. Okay, clear?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Let's connect tomorrow then. Thank you.